When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat, which doesn't go and doesn't suit me, and I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired and gobble up samples in the shops and press alarm bells, and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. Or you can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickle for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street and set a good example to the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. And maybe I ought to practice until now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple. At the bottom end of the scale, you've got a guy who perhaps likes to wear a nice little pair of nylon briefs with lace around them. That is all he will ever wear. Then you get one who's a little bit further advanced, and he will cross-dress and he will go out in public during the day, go out and eat, go to the cinema, go shopping, this sort of thing. But you don't decide to become a transvestite, you are one or become one. I started when I was about 10. I started to cross-dress, and it went on from there. I was, I guess, on my own at home, and there were a couple of slips that belonged to my mother, and I tried them on, and I found it pleasurable to wear these slips, play upstairs in the house while she was out. And then as time went by, I wanted to have more of this sort of pleasure, and I obtained various other bits of underwear. The first thing you chuck out the window if you're talking about transvestism is logic, because there's no logic in it. There are probably as many reasons for being transvestite as there are transvestites. The time I started doing it was in the 1940s during the war, when men were not only macho, they were out fighting and this sort of thing. So, you know, you're afraid of being called a sissy, you're afraid of everything. You lived in terror that anybody might even suspect, let alone know that you wanted to cross-dress or dress up as a girl. And this makes for a very lonely and frightening experience. In amateur dramatic circles, men generally are usually in such short supply that if you wear trousers and don't fall over the furniture, you get cast. So, of course, the upshot was that I got a part in a play. And I got the bug. I got this thing. It never failed to scare the shit out of me going on stage. But once you're on there, and you've got the audience there, and you realise you've got them, it's great. While I was with Masqueraders Theatre Club, I met Helen, and we started going out together, and we got married. So that's another thing that drama does for you. It's a matrimonial agency.
I think we're quite alike in a lot of ways. Slightly insane. Well, anybody who goes on stage and pretends to be other people. Not normal, is it?
Sort of went to the pictures, didn't we? Went to see shows. We started going out to eat together. And eventually I proposed, and she thought, yeah, well, it's the only way I'm going to go, although there's 2 bloody cuts. I suppose I'll have to accept the bugger. I think it's something entirely romantic, like how would you like to spend the rest of your life with a lunatic?
I think it was something like that, yeah. Actually.
Yeah. It worked.
And I looked at George and I thought, I've got to say yes.
Yeah. When I got married to Helen, I knew that it was quite unfair not to tell her that I was a transvestite. But over the course of 40 years, you build a great protective wall to stop anybody getting into you. And you build this lovely protective wall, and it's so big and it's so thick, you can't get out of it. So I chucked all the stuff out and swore I wouldn't do it again, knowing full well in the back of my mind that I would, that this is something inherent in me, that's been inherent in me since I was about age 10, and it wasn't going to go away. And we'd been married about 9 years, and I was going crazy, wanting to cross-dress. And she was wondering what the hell was the matter with me, because we'd ceased to communicate.
I just couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I was getting a bit desperate, to be honest. I had got to one point when I was walking around thinking, which are my books and which are his, if we're going to split. And then one day something happened.
As I say, I didn't tell Helen. I knew it would come back, and it did, and we'd been married about 9 years.
We had a row, and I thought, well, that's it, finished. Sort the books out. Will he let me take one of the cats? And then he said very quietly,
I got something else to tell you.
I'm a transvestite.
I'm a transvestite.
And I thought, oh, that's why.
That was the lowest point. That was the point at which I was cutting everything. I thought she hadn't understood what I'd said at first. I don't know what she was thinking.
It was just little things clicking into place.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's a bit odd, and then put it to one side. And that was the answer.
But thank God when she found out, she accepted it, came with me, used to go to the group. We had the partners helpline so she could talk to wives of other transvestites at home, and helped out a hell of a lot at the group. We'd been up to the group, and I came home, I was sitting looking at the paper, and there was a little coupon in the paper saying, you know, can you answer these questions? You might be a member of Mensa. So I filled them in. We'd just come back, so I was dressed, you see. And I said to Helen, I'm going to post this off, so I posted it off. They posted back again a test to take at home. So I said, we've got to do this right, because I'm going to go in for it as Christine Jane. Okay? To my surprise, I got a letter back saying, you scored 156. Can you come and take an invigilated test? It was my second outing in public in a frock. And I sat the test in a classroom with some 40, 50 other people. I took the test and I passed it again, so I scored, I think it was 154. So I became a member of Mensa as Christine Jane, not as Chris.
We went to one of their social evenings. Chris, of course, was Christine Jane, and said, I'm going to get a couple of drinks. I said, right, fine. And I was sitting there chatting to whoever. And somebody came up and said, oh, is this seat vacant? And I said, oh, my husband's just gone to get drinks. And at the same time, this woman was saying, oh, well, that's your lady friend's seat, isn't it? And I said, my husband. And she sort of looked at me. She said, I said, it's my husband, he's a cross-dresser. Oh, she said, I thought that was another way of saying you were lesbians. And I said, this is what I was always afraid of, that people would think we were lesbians.
I tell you what, see, you've borrowed some of my underwear on stage, haven't you? Because
yes,
you had to peer, and I had a decent slip and you didn't.
I didn't have a full-length slip, so I had to borrow hers.
Had a lot of fun, I think.
Oh, yes.
Met some lovely people. Great crowd.
And some weirdos.
Yeah, all some oddballs. Well, let's face it. You've got to be odd, haven't you?
Yes, definitely.